I don't understand why we are normalizing something that is unhealthy and abnormal, right? But then I realized the day that I would run out of, the bread or the butter or something and I couldn't have it, I would have this hypoglycemic, crazy glucose slump and then spike when I ate, and it made me moody.
Like if you starve yourself, which people are doing on Ozempic, I've got to know what you think about it.
Yeah, what do you think about Ozempic?
I'm very concerned about Ozempic.
I think this new term, being healthy, I'm like, no, that should be the standard. Like us wanting to eat clean food should be the standard. I think not eating clean food is like abuse, and like we should be more concerned with people who aren't eating whole foods from nature, because if they are, they're abusing their body.
Welcome. Today we are with Dr. Jodi. She's the Director of Health and Wellness at Felicity, which is a medical center here in LA.
Medical health center, yes. Here in LA and Santa Barbara.
Yeah, but she's many things. I'm just going to have her tell you a little bit about herself. But we are here today and we're going to talk about all things health and wellness, women's health, weight gain when sedentary and weight loss, and all things metabolic health. This is going to be a really exciting episode, and I hope that you stay to the end. Welcome, Dr. Jodi.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
So I'm curious how your path to wellness got developed over the years, because you really came from a research background.
And I think it goes back to my mother, who was a woman before her time. She taught yoga in the 60s and 70s. She was talking about whole foods and not eating foods with preservatives and not eating too much refined carbohydrates. She was talking about this as I was growing up. And so I kind of was raised with these messages in my head. And I was resistant to having sandwiches on, home-baked bread or breads that didn't have preservatives. And I wanted the Wonder Bread, and I wanted all the fun marketed foods. So that was sort of my upbringing. And then in my career, I spent almost 30 years. I have a PhD in communications theory and research. So I'm a social scientist, basically, a sociologist / psychologist. And I've helped companies from startups to Fortune 500 companies revise their marketing strategies and product strategies to expand their markets using social science, which most people are familiar with. Scientific surveys, qualitative research such as in-depth interviewing, and different kind of psychological techniques to peel back the layer of the onion, if you will.
Yeah.
The psyche.
I think a lot about right now the Make America Healthy Again movement. And I know you're not finished with your story, but just really quick, we are in a crisis with our health. 67% of the kids' diets are ultra-processed foods, the foods that you wanted, that Penelope ate and wanted that I didn't give her. Maybe I was too strict. But regardless, I feel like we need not only policy change at a government level, but we also need a change in the hearts and minds of the American people. So I'm curious, and we can pause that question for a little bit later, what your thoughts are on how we're going to change the hearts and minds of the American public to reignite them to stop wanting to eat ultra-processed foods, like how we're actually going to make Americans healthy again, because they usually need to be entertained and wooed and convinced, and and it doesn't matter how much peer-reviewed science there is.
Well, and I think a lot of it is this might sound a little bit harsh, but I think a lot of it is the public has been brainwashed by the marketing messages and advertising messages that have been broadcasted over decades and decades of time. Since I'm a baby of the 60s, and, all the advertising that has been done to push these foods, ultra-processed foods, talking about the food pyramid with grains at the bottom and all these sort of refined carbohydrates at the bottom, winnowing up to fat at the top. And now we know all of that has turned around. And I think it's going to take some time because people have been wooed and brainwashed into thinking the way large food companies and corporations want them to think, so that they will buy those products.
Yes, propaganda.
And that's what I did for almost 30 years is I helped companies craft their messaging to attract their target audience or their target consumer to purchase more of those TV shows or video games. Or I didn't do it for the food industry, but I did it for the entertainment and tech industry.
Yeah, but I'm sure they use the same principles. I mean, it's kind of, it's textbook. So how did, like, so you were raised in this health environment, and then as an adult, you were in this research world, communications, and then what brought wellness on your radar? Was it just like embedded in you and your DNA, because from upbringing?
I think it was embedded. I think I had these messages in my heart and soul, and my passion always was to feel better, feel fit, feel healthy, feel energized and energetic. And so I was constantly always kind of fine-tuning my lifestyle. And that was a challenge because when I was a corporate executive, I was jumping on and off of planes. I was flying around, doing focus groups or meeting with my clients in New York City or Chicago or wherever, sometimes in London and Paris, which sounds fancy, but it was very draining. And it was a challenge to stay
Healthy.
well slept and healthy
Vital.
and not gain a lot of weight, because you're also going to these big dinners, you're eating airport food and airplane food. And so it was always in me, but I decided a few years ago, and perhaps the COVID pandemic pushed me a little bit, because I was seeing this country falling apart with that pandemic and a lot of people dying because they had so many metabolic disorders or diseases. And I think I decided, you know what, I'm going to start studying what I really want to study. I got my PhD in social science, and I had a great career, which has been very good to me. And I'm going to maybe just transition out of that and into the health and wellness, health and well-being industry. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years.
Yeah, so you were saying you have an interest in Ayurveda, which is a big interest of mine as well. It's given me answers that no other system has. I'm very interested in traditional Chinese medicine, macrobiotic diet, 'cause my mom actually went blind when I was a little girl, and she went on this macrobiotic diet, completely regained her vision. And then our neighbor did the same thing, and he had cancer, and he no longer had cancer after on this macrobiotic diet. And it does follow the ketogenic principles, where you're starving the cell in the ATP cycle of glucose. And there's something magic that happens when you do that. Whether it's a vegan, raw ketogenic diet, or the macrobiotic lens, the ketogenic diet, or the kind of traditional modern ketogenic diet that we know that reverses epilepsy, as we were speaking about earlier. So it's just interesting to learn about these different healing modalities that have been tested for thousands of years. And what are some of the most important pillars about the Ayurvedic training that you've been going through?
Well, I think, all of us, you get to a certain age and everybody's experienced some kind of trauma, whether that's physical trauma or emotional trauma. And, obviously that's something that is going to affect the physical trauma, will affect your body. It also might affect your psyche. Emotional trauma is going to affect your mind and your spirit, and your just get up and go sort of feeling of vibrancy and happiness. These things are not separate, though, and they all impact each other.
Totally.
So if we're not well slept, if we're not getting enough sleep, or we're not eating the right foods, our mental health is going to suffer. Our level of energy is going to suffer, and then when our level of energy suffers, then maybe we become more sedentary, and then our physical health suffers. And then when our physical health suffers, maybe we start to feel a little bit down and depressed, and maybe we start to beat ourselves up for not doing a better job at being healthy.
And the doctor gives you a pill for that.
Yes, and it's a triangle. So keeping that mind, body, and spirit in balance, which that is the science of Ayurveda right there, is so important in order to really thrive in all those areas.
And that's really what our program is designed around. So I love that you just articulated it, because it is the foundation of our work. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're finding that you're run down, just know that your mind and your body are not separate, and that you're also not alone. You had a period in your life where you put on a little bit of weight because you had to be sedentary. You had did you have an injury or?
Actually, yes. I was hit by a car several years ago. It was a couple of years before COVID. And every extremity was injured. It was not, in some ways, it wasn't that serious of an injury, of an accident, because I didn't have to be hospitalized right away. Had to go to the ER, but I had a torn rotator cuff, a torn labrum, a fractured ankle, another ankle with a lot of soft tissue injuries, a couple of herniated discs, a concussion, tinnitus, and I just couldn't function in my strategic market research consulting career. So, I mean, at that time I was an independent consultant, so I just relaxed, took some time off. But I realized very quickly that I can't walk my dog. I can't drive my car. I have to be on one leg for 3 months because of the fracture. I had to just release all pressure on the fractured ankle and be on one ankle for 3 months and lay around a lot. Unfortunately, I was just starting to get into biohacking, and a very good friend of mine owns a company called one of the OsteoStrong franchises, which is about building bone health. And so she and I had been going to that. And I think I was I think that actually helped me not break as many bones. But she gave me some cool technology to use in my house, but I was laying around a lot.
Like laser therapies, light, and
pulsating electromagnetic frequency therapies. So those mats basically ground the energy in your body.
Right, like a biomat or a beamer or
something like that.
Okay, got it.
It wasn't that brand.
Okay, something similar.
PEMF.
Yeah.
And that's been very successful at helping people heal from injury.
Yeah, it accelerates the healing for sure. We have one.
And it also just gives you a terrific feeling of calmness.
It's true.
So I was laying around a lot and I was ordering a lot of books online, and I love to read cookbooks because I love to cook. And I was reading about nutrition and other things that relate to my passion about health and well-being. And I realized I need to figure out, I'm not exercising, 5 days a week. I'm not going on 2-hour hikes. 6 months prior, I had done a trek in the Himalayan mountains of Nepal. And I thought, I'm laying around. I have no choice but to lay around and heal. And it was a big challenge for my mind, body, and spirit, because I was used to being able to get up out of the house, go to the gym, go for a hike, go for a bike ride, take a Pilates class, and I couldn't. And so I learned how to intermittent fast, and I learned how to do it to keep myself hydrated. And I started reading more and more about different diets, paleo, ketogenic, et cetera, and just started to experiment with what would work for me. I actually didn't gain a lot of weight during that time. I actually kept my weight in about a 5-pound zone, which was amazing. But during the COVID pandemic, I gained the COVID-15, like I think most people did. And maybe some people gained the COVID-10 or the COVID-50, who knows?
Definitely comment down below with a thumbs up if you can relate to this story, either having had an accident, having an injury, and or having put on that COVID-15 or 20 or 25 or 50. No, it's true.
It just happened. People were stuck at home, and I was cooking and enjoying life, and I was working full time, and I was also doing some remodeling of my house, and I was at home, and just what else am I going to do but cook and enjoy food and enjoy some wine now and then. And before I knew it, just little by little, the weight comes on, and you're not even aware of it until all of a sudden you realize, oh,
my pants don't fit. That dress doesn't fit anymore. Yeah. So when you say intermittent fasting, what was your window of eating and rest? Did you have a specific format you followed?
I tried to, I kind of eased into it. I mean, like anything, right? All of this advice often boils down to baby steps, right? It's one step at a time, and watch how you...
That's what we call the step it up.
Yes, you got to step it up, and one step at a time. And before you know it, you've made these small habit changes become big habit changes. And then it's not so hard. So my window was... I was reading a lot of articles because I'm a research geek, and I realized for women, it's often good to vary it. So you don't want to always do a 12 to 14 hour fast, or just a 12 to 10 hour eating window.
I'm glad you said that, because I can't stand it if I have to do the same thing every day. It drives me crazy. Penelope's the exact opposite.
The exact opposite.
Yeah, she loves to do whatever, 24, whatever.
You like a structure.
Every day.
So I'm like, maybe 18 hours one day, maybe 10 hours the next, maybe 16 the day after. I'm like all about that flow. So thank you for validating that, researcher.
I think when I was laying around my house, basically, and not driving, and gosh, I had the best friends and neighbors doing a lot of things for me that I was usually never asked help for. But I was laying around reading a lot of books, watching a lot of Netflix, and a lot of YouTube videos. But I tended to do about a 6 to 8 hour eating window most days, and then some days I would just eat very light, throughout whenever I felt like it. I would just eat vegetables, or I just go light on my calorie intake. But I've never been a calorie counter. I'm actually personally very against calorie counting because I think it can play it puts too much pressure on people.
And I just don't think it's about calories in, calories out. And Penelope, I think, also disagrees with me.
Disclaimer, we believe in the law of thermodynamics. You have to say that, or else everyone thinks you're crazy. So we have to say we believe in thermodynamics, and calorie counting can make you go crazy.
Yes. And it's quality, right? It's the quality of the...
You read my mind.
Right.
Absolutely. And if you cut your calories too low, then it can also damage your metabolism, slow your thyroid down, and really shoot yourself in the foot with weight loss, especially.
And hormones.
And metabolic health, just in general. Mm-hmm. Like if you starve yourself, which people are doing on Ozempic, I've got to know what you think about
Ozempic. What do you think about Ozempic?
I'm very concerned about Ozempic.
So what are you seeing?
Well, I'm not studying it that much, but I do have a number of close friends and colleagues who are on maybe not Ozempic, but another.
Wegovy, is that about?
Wegovy, yeah.
People you're seeing on it, are they morbidly obese, or not even obese at all, and just on it for vanity? Like what percentage?
Funny enough, the people I know that are on it are men. One was morbidly obese. The other one probably just obese, and very frustrated, and both sort of bon vivants, right? And I actually consider myself a bon vivant. I love to cook. I live by the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time I'm doing all the stuff just right for my body. I feel great. And then 20% of the time, okay, it's usually not sugar. It's usually, maybe just maybe it is a high carbohydrate, lots of potatoes or lots of pasta, or maybe it's, a lot of wine. Or
it's important to do that. And Jodi, I really believe it's important to do that because I know people who do strict ketogenic for a long time, and then they become carbohydrate intolerant. And so their body doesn't process carbohydrates well. So I love that 80-20 principle. And I think that's probably why you look so fabulous, and why you're aging so well, and why you didn't have that, 20, 30-pound gain in menopause like most women do.
Right.
Anyway, getting back to what we were just talking about, Ozempic, you're concerned.
I'm concerned because I haven't, honestly, admittedly, I haven't been reading the research on it, but I have been learning bits and pieces as I immerse myself in the health and longevity and well-being area. And what I'm learning is that, certain systems in the body shut down, become less flexible, just the way people digest their food.
Gut motility is delayed. There's stomach paralysis.
Stomach paralysis really concerning.
And permanent gut dysbiosis.
Whether or not you can reverse that.
Gut microbiome, permanent gut microbiome changes, black box warning, thyroid cancer, suicidal ideations, and certain cases of blindness. Now, we're hearing
bone density loss.
Right.
Of course. And that is definitely something I've been reading a lot about. And yeah.
So, out of the gate,
damage to the vagus nerve, a huge one.
Oh,
I haven't
heard that one either.
We heard that one from.
Well, that will affect. That'll affect the entire mind-body system,
which just makes the depression and suicide. That makes sense.
Just out of the gate, thinking that a drug is going to help with weight loss is wrong. I actually am going to call it wrong. I'm not usually into black and white thinking, right and wrong, but I really don't think that it's a viable solution. And I know some people who've gotten a great little head start, used it as motivation to get into good habits, and then wean themselves off of it. Now, that I could see as a viable solution, potentially. I just don't know if these impacts are reversible or not. That's what makes me concerned.
We need something sustainable, really. And it's not sustainable as a long-term solution. So what you're describing makes sense. Someone who has been really stuck with too much weight on their body. Maybe they're suffering from joint pain. Maybe they are, pre-diabetic or diabetic. So they need a jump start. But it's not a sustainable solution.
No, on our program, you're going to lose 10 pounds a month, 8 to 10 pounds a month, guaranteed if you follow what we tell you to do. or what you actually know already you need to do. It's actually not even us telling you, because you actually already know what you need to do. The question is, why aren't you doing it? So anyway, that's why education and accountability is so key.
I'm really curious about your perspective, because are you seeing the ads for it and stuff? The marketing and the ads on the television, and it's like everywhere. Are you seeing that too?
I am seeing this.
So with your 30 plus years experience in marketing, and we were walking and you were saying like basically manipulating people's minds, I'd like to know what
A little hard
about
that.
I love it. No, I love. Be honest.
What are your thoughts on the advertising they're doing with the little
Oh.
Yes. And that's a nice little, sound branding. Yeah. No, we know that.
Song?
Oh, yes.
You heard the song?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You can't get it out of your head.
Can't get it out of your
I don't know. Do you use TikTok?
No, I don't.
So on TikTok, there are like these absolute people who have no knowledge about health, like whatsoever. They don't do any research, morbidly obese, taking Ozempic, and they have affiliate codes for Ozempic. So they get to give young girls like that were 15 when I was obese. I was 15. They can give young girls these affiliate codes and discount links to these fake and generic, not real,
It's illegal.
off the market pills,
Legal.
like pop-in juices, like weird off the market stuff on TikTok Shop. And that's like another form of marketing, but it's not as obvious because it's a live stream. So it's just live for a few hours or minutes and then it's off.
Well, and teenagers are so susceptible. And I will confess, when I was 15 and 16, I had an eating disorder. It was back, the old ones that we used to have. Right. Yeah. I mean, it was basically, I would binge and starve. I wasn't bulimic, but I would binge for a couple days and then I would starve for 5 days.
Some people with intermittent fasting is like that, though. But it sounds like you found a middle ground.
Yeah, intermittent fasting is not that, because actually your body starts to crave. I mean, some people who intermittent fast or shrink their eating window, they will just kind of pig out on anything during their eating window.
Yeah.
But I have found with my body, and I enjoy feeling good, and I enjoy feeling energetic, and I like to fit in my clothes. I try to treat my body as much of a temple as I can. So, and I start to crave what I need.
I know. Well,
So I'll crave eggs, and I'll crave avocados, and I'll crave things that my body really feels like an eat.
yeah. So this is called intuitive eating. And they're promoting this also on social media, and it's making people fatter than ever. Because it's almost like permissive parenting, like the body positivity movement. I was shocked to learn about this. And I get that intuitive eating is important, but you actually have to rehabilitate your hunger cues and your taste buds in order to have access to that, which means clearing out ultra-processed foods, which is something you mentioned you did
Oh, yeah, and I haven't.
when you lost the 15 pounds.
I stopped eating added sugar probably 10 years ago. So, yeah, once in a while you're at a restaurant and someone orders the creme brulee, or they order, a chocolate souffle, and you have a couple bites. But I read every single label. And if it's got added sugars, I mean, I do drink a little kombucha, and there is a couple grams of added sugar to a bottle of kombucha. But that is also, I consider that kind of a treat.
It's on your radar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a treat, and you have to read the labels. If you're not reading the labels, you are putting your health at risk, because big food and big pharma are imposing your health, and it's your responsibility to turn it around.
And they're making everything so addictive. Excuse me.
And they're really good at marketing. And I want to know, like, what's something that the audience that maybe it doesn't know as much about health as we do, what can they look out for when they're seeing these ads about Ozempic? They're seeing these ads in commercials on, sugary processed food, things that look so nice, but they're really bad for you. What is the, advice you can be like, look out for this, watch out for these words, or what can our audience look out for?
I think the audience needs to understand that these are persuasive messages. These are messages that are crafted by very creative, wonderful people who know how to build a beautiful message and use beautiful imagery and use a pop song that makes everybody feel good. And they need to just not take that as information. Of course, it's information, but it's persuasive information. So the audience needs to be a critical thinker. And if you hear something advertised that you're sort of interested in, go online, read the ingredients, we'll look up some YouTube videos or go to Rumble or some other alternative platform, which is not supported by these gigantic corporations, and do your own research. And, there is no quick fix to weight loss.
There is no quick fix. Yeah. A lot of our members are like, well, isn't there like a water hack so I don't have to drink so much water? I'm like, no, there isn't.
And we're animals, we're mammals. We forget that. We somehow have become so arrogant to think that we are not these biological, mammals that need to sleep. We need to sleep. We need to eat right or we'll become diseased. And we have not evolved to be able to eat this chemical-laden food.
No, our body looks at it as an invader. So what does eating right mean to you?
That's a great question. I've never actually defined it before, but I think very simply, eating as close to the earth as you can, and you can be a vegetarian or you can be vegan and do this. You can be an omnivore like I am and do this, but eat as close to the ground as you can, meaning as natural. So if you're eating vegetables, buy organic. I know it's more expensive. That's something that hopefully this country will fix. And hopefully we can support our farmers to be able to grow organic food more sustainably financially sustainably, as well as environmentally sustainably. So eat organic if you're eating vegetables or fruit. Even the flours you buy, if you want to have bread, buy breads that don't have preservatives.
That means the bread goes bad in like 2 days, by the way.
Yes. Like in Europe, those of us who are lucky to go to Europe or go to other countries.
I just want to state some research that I read recently by Institute of Functional Medicine. Jeffrey Bland revealed that vegetables open up over 400 healing pathways. That is remarkable. Now, why? Because they have phytonutrients. That's why vegetables and fruits are so colorful, because they contain phytonutrients, which means they capture light from the sun, and then they turn it into nutrients that the human body is designed to receive, digest, absorb, and assimilate, and it goes to heal the body. I mean, it's so
That's
simple.
Fantastic.
But yeah, you said it's so simple.
And it's such a gift.
And it's so inexpensive. I mean, Ozempic, I think the price is going to go down, but I mean, it was $1,600 a month at the top.
Well, and you're not getting any nutrition. You're not getting any fortifying cell-building nutrition from Ozempic.
No.
You're not doing anything for your mitochondrial health, and your mitochondria needs to be healthy in order to power your energy.
So explain what that means. Mitochondrial health.
Well, mitochondria is the mitochondria that live in your body, in your cells, basically power up your cells in so many ways that I'm not enough of a biologist or scientist to be able to explain it all, but they're basically the powerhouses of your cells that can power your cells to fight disease, to bring you energy, to build new tissue when you need.
Everyone has them.
Everybody has them.
We have trillions of cells in our body, and every single cell in your body has these cytoplasms, and the cytoplasms contain mitochondria, and the mitochondria. So if you are low on energy, you have chronic fatigue, if you are inflamed, if you have chronic pain, chances are you have some mitochondrial dysfunction, possibly, or you're prematurely aging, or you eat a lot of junk food, or you have some chronic disease. Chances are it started with mitochondrial dysfunction.
And that, I would add to that mitochondrial dysfunction is usually the result of a metabolic imbalance and being unhealthy metabolic.
So how do you get a metabolic imbalance? Is it just like a bad deck of cards, bad DNA? Really, how do people develop this?
Metabolic dysfunction is it can be, some of it is genetic, but we put far too much emphasis on genetics.
I agree.
Mostly it is environmental and what we are consuming.
Lifestyle,
yes.
Yeah. So if you're in front of your screen a lot, if you're sedentary, if you don't get out in the sunshine, if you're not eating whole foods, chances are you are leading yourself down this path of dark, destructive, painful, agonizing, premature death. And I'm saying that with such confidence because my mom was one of those people.
Yeah.
And Penelope, before she saved her life, was going to be one of those people. And I can tell you, all three of us can tell you that if you make different choices, starting with your next meal or your next grocery store visit, you can turn it around.
Yeah.
Your body was designed to heal. And in case you forgot that or somebody convinced you of something other than that, it's a lie. Your body will heal itself.
I did it in 8 months. I gained the COVID-15. This is maybe not a severe health story, but I gained the COVID-15 or 17 pounds. And then I thought, you know what? I eat pretty well. I mean, I've been buying organic. I've been doing this, but I have been eating a lot. And maybe I've been having a few too many like bags of, potato chips cooked in seed oils, not avocado oil, this, that, and the other. And I thought I need to start, winnowing out these ultra-processed foods and these bad fats. So a ketogenic diet is only as good as the fats that you're eating as well. That's really important.
Yeah, fat is not going to make you fat, folks, unless you're combining it with sugar and a lot of salt.
Right.
Here, tell us more about the ketogenic diet.
So the ketogenic diet, I mean, people will talk about eating loads of cheese and loads of butter and loads of bacon. Well, you can do that and satisfy the requirements of a ketogenic diet. But if those are industry farmed pigs that are loaded up with hormones and antibiotics, it's not going to be a quality meat for you. It's not going to be a quality fat for you.
Facts.
If you're eating, if you're having beef that is also industry farmed and it's not 100% grass fed, grass finished, healthily raised cattle on grass, pasture raised, that's not going to be the healthiest meat for you. And then, the breads, as I mentioned before, if you still want to have your bread and maybe you want that 5 to 10% of your carbohydrates to just come from a slice of bread, eat a bread with no preservatives and no additives.
We have a lot of bread recipes in our program. We believe that making our own bread is really important. It's actually really...
I'm just about to do it. I'll probably have to get some of your recipes because I could not eat bread. But I'd like to have a little bit now and then and know that I'm eating something I've made myself.
Yeah, and Penelope has all these sourdough starters that she's working on. And I made a bread the other day with just ground buckwheat, raw groats, and flax seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And then we let it rise naturally. It didn't rise that much.
We used whey.
We used
instead of water.
Yes.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
How did that taste?
It was delicious. I actually,
Tastes like whey?
no, I didn't taste the whey at all.
No.
No.
Probably eat more grain than I do. I'm not big on grain.
I'm
Not big on oats, and I'm not big on oats.
Yeah, I mean, very little, but I do eat some. The buckwheat is actually a pseudograin. It's not classified as a grain.
Buckwheat.
But I also make breads out of mung beans. And I don't know if you eat legume.
Yes.
But yeah, lentils. Yeah. So we actually had a girl in our program who cracked the code on that too. She was like, what? This looks like a proper piece of bread.
Yeah.
Totally protein.
Oh, you can with legumes.
Especially if it's sprouted and or soaked in whey and then sprouted. That's really the way we love to go. Ancient healing traditions we believe in. And so the ketogenic diet is trending. And I think led to this carnivore craze that we're in. Actually, the guy who started the carnivore craze is kind of backtracking a little bit. What's his name? Saldino?
Pulsadino.
Yeah. Isn't he's backtracking a little. He's like, well, maybe it's not that great for you.
I don't know. I can't speak on that. I haven't seen that.
But what we really want to communicate is that a high animal diet or a high fat diet from animal fats, you really need to be able to afford it and find it. And if you can't,
It needs to be a quality.
Yeah, if you can't afford it, you can't find it, you might want to reconsider which direction you take with your nutrition and your healthy diet and lifestyle, because not everyone can find it easily.
Be really careful because there are influencers online who do the keto animal base and they don't source their food properly. They don't even talk about sourcing. They're like, no, do it. Even if you can't afford it, it's fine. It's still better than eating other stuff. So there are arguments like, oh, well, it's better than eating ultra processed food.
Well, that's kind of like the Ozempic argument. The effects are greater. It's solving a bigger problem because you don't.
But I just say avoid it. Just avoid that.
I think so because I work with a lot of people who have cancer, and in order to reverse their cancer, they really got to do some very deep detoxing. And we saw Dr. Williams' research from the University of Oregon, the Linus Pauling Institute, and he showed that the DNA mutates irreversibly going into metastatic states, which is cancer, when your body has too much toxic load. And so you want to try to eliminate and manage your toxic load. And we're getting a little bit off topic here, but that's just something to put into the space. Like you don't want to invite a lot of these hormone disruptors that the meats are injected with, unnecessary excess antibiotics that the animals are injected with. We're not even getting into the vaccines that the animals might be taking that you're also ingesting.
Which we're ingesting.
How they're killed, which, is by electric shock, usually in factory farmed animals, where it's different than kosher, where they slit the throat. So there's like all these nuances to, the importance of solidifying your supply chain. not only for your vegetables and fruits, which hopefully is by a farmer that's ripe, organic, and seasoned and local. And then, of course, the meat. So it's like somebody
Yeah, the meat and the fish too.
and
Yeah.
and then whatever dairy. So like you might be rolling your eyes right now and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like are these people orthorexic? But honestly,
I don't know that term.
it's like someone who's overly healthy,
Oh, okay.
like too obsessed with health. But honestly, you said it. You're like, I love the way I feel. I love being energized and vital and being able to do all the things I want to do. And
I'll still go to a restaurant. And of course, I have to surrender to whatever the restaurant is doing. Yeah, that's my 20% rule.
Yeah.
Right? That's the 80-20.
I did hear this girl, and I do the same thing. She's like, she'll tell them, I'm allergic to seed oils. And then they can't feed her seed oils. Or she'll say like something like that. I'm not condoning lying, but I mean, technically our bodies are allergic to seed oils.
Well, there's
That's not a complete lie.
It's
to say that.
It's not really a lie.
And so,
Level our body becomes inflamed,
right.
and inflammation is part of an allergic response.
So if anyone out there listening is thinking like, oh, well, I don't want to lie, or I feel like that's so crazy. Like, I think this new term, like, oh, being healthy, I'm like, no, that should be the standard. Like us wanting to eat clean food should be the standard. I think not eating clean food is like abuse. And like, we should be more concerned with people who aren't eating whole foods from nature, because if they are, they're abusing their bodies.
well, isn't it? If you're buying it, you're encouraging the manufacturers to keep producing it. So there's a thing called supply and demand. And if you are continuing to demand something that's not good for you, then there's going to be supply. So you're voting with your dollar. Every decision you make, what you put in your mouth, what you put in your mind, what you put in your belly, what you're spending your money on, like it really matters. And I think we underestimate that.
We do. And you can email restaurants and ask them what's on their menu. And you can, like, it takes a while, but if they hear from enough people that, seed oils are a problem and they're highly inflammatory, not to mention all the other hormone disruption and this, that, and the other that can result from too much seed oils. But if you start to slowly but surely put that pressure on restaurants, and you can be positive about it.
Yeah.
You can say, you know what, I would eat at your restaurant more often if I knew that your salad dressings used olive oil.
Use olive oil.
Used olive oil and avocado oil instead of any kind of seed oil.
Do you think grapeseed oil is safe?
I don't.
I don't either.
It's also considered rapeseed oil,
Which is
in
canola
India,
oil.
which is canola oil.
And it's genetically modified in the United States. Now, in Europe, they have a first cold-pressed extra virgin canola oil. That looks great. It's bright yellow, and I don't think it's corrupted. But every single canola in the United States apparently is genetically modified.
Well, I did buy, this was a moment where I wanted to buy, I don't eat tortillas very often, but I wanted to try my hand at making some enchiladas myself. And I did buy some organic flour tortillas with organic cold-pressed canola oil. Now, I don't know if that's true.
Oh, I think that it might have been.
They did taste delicious. And
but are they testing if it's genetically modified? I don't know.
I don't know if it was genetically, I'll have to check the package.
Oh, yeah, no, they wouldn't tell you probably because they probably don't even know. Apparently, it just happens. Like it gets infected.
Right.
The things. But anyway, I think I don't want to scare people. I just want it to be on your radar so that you can be healthier, happier, and holier and live longer and happier lives.
Yeah, and you change what you can, right?
Yeah.
You can't do everything perfectly all the time. So you change what you can. If you can buy a salad dressing that's made with avocado oil, or if you love potato chips, you buy some potato chips that are made with avocado oil or olive oil instead of safflower or sunflower oil.
Yeah.
Typical.
Yeah.
You just read those labels, and it's called. There's sort of a theory behind this, like tiny habits. So you change one little tiny habit. Maybe you constantly put sugar in your coffee every morning. So you wean yourself off of that sugar, and maybe you just add some cinnamon, or you add some raw unpasteurized honey if you need it sweet. And that becomes the new habit instead of processed sugar.
Yeah.
Little by little, these tiny little habits that you can change over time.
And that's how I lost 160 pounds.
Really?
I just went from Burger King to eating my own Burger King at home. So I made my own Burger King order at home. And we're like, everyone can do that. Like, that's what we tell people in our group. Like, hey, you don't have to stop eating your favorite foods. Just make them at home.
Make them healthier.
Put them in your freezer. Make your own ice cream out of better ingredients. And then you're going to enjoy your life. And it takes a second for the taste buds to like readjust. And then they do. And you're happy. This whole idea that dieting or being healthy has to be gross and like deprived is not a real thing. It's like a made up lie that the diet industry kind of created, but it's not actually the truth.
No, I agree. And I think the messages we tell ourselves really mean a lot. So when I decided to remove the added sugar in my diet, it was because in the morning I would have such an intense craving for bread or toast. I used to eat toast with butter and jam every morning before I went to grad school and with my coffee. And it was delicious. Of course it was delicious. But then I realized the day that I would run out of, the bread or the butter or something and I couldn't have it, I would have this hypoglycemic, crazy glucose slump and then spike when I ate. And it made me moody. And I'm not moody. The way I eat now, I'm not moody. I'm never moody. I just because I'm not spiking that glucose all the time. And I just slowly weaned myself off. So I started to eat an egg in the morning if I was really hungry with my coffee. And I finally transitioned out of having any sugar in my tea or coffee to just having cream or half and half.
Jodi, what you just described was listening to your body.
Mm.
And I don't know that a lot of people know how to do that. So I just want to just reiterate and slow the conversation down a little bit for our listeners. Like, did you hear what she said? She got moody. So if you think you're moody,
I was addicted to that sweet little piece of toast. It was just whole wheat bread with butter and a little bit of jam, but it was addictive.
Yeah. High fat, high carbohydrate, and high salt usually is what the magic combination is to get the brain to the bliss point, which shifts you into addiction mode. And sometimes when you're there and you don't turn it around like you did 15 pounds in, and you say it's not a big story, but it is. Like, how many of our listeners right now wish they had done that when they figured out they had gained their first 15 and now they're 50 pounds later or they're 150 pounds later. And now the hill just feels so steep to climb. But we're here today to give you inspiration because we believe that it's possible for you to turn it around by just changing your breakfast out, maybe having an egg with your coffee instead of that bread with butter and jam.
And you stop, or pancakes, right, with butter and sugar or maple syrup or whatever on it. It generally takes, I think the rule of thumb now, and you're a nutritionist, so you would know this. I think the rule of thumb now is it takes about 3 weeks. If you can wean yourself off the sugar and you can be off the sugar, whether that's dextrose, sucrose, high fructose corn syrup, whatever kind of sugar it is, if you can stay off it for 3 weeks, you will stop having the mad craving.
That is absolutely true. And it actually happens even faster. It's within 3 days that your gut microbiome could reset. And we actually offer a gut microbiome reset, a metabolic reset that helps the gut microbiome because in 3 days, your body will respond because you start to eliminate or reduce the bacteria in your gut microbiome that are responding to that sugar, that are driving your cravings, and then it just resets itself. Your body is just so miraculous. Now, if you're really a sugar addict, it might take 5 days, but the 3 weeks is when you're complete, like no turning back.
Look at a cookie, you don't want it.
Exactly.
I really don't. I get these wonderful offers from my neighborhood bakery and to get a free cookie. And I'm sure they're beautiful, beautifully baked cookies with so much love and so much sugar. And I don't know what flour they're using, but I have no desire. So, I'll go get those 2 cookies for one of my friends that really is, kind of addicted to sweets, and I'll give it to them because there's just no desire anymore. And I think it's really hard for people to believe that they could actually fake that.
So true. We have a girl in our group. She's 96 pounds down now, all naturally. And she says the same thing to us. Like, oh, I don't crave sugar anymore. I look at a cookie, but I don't want it because I love what I make at home better. And I haven't had sugar in how many months? And there are new girls in our group who aren't there yet, and they're like, "Wow, I can't believe that that's possible," but it is.
It's like an alternate reality for them.
It's possible. And like you and I, we don't eat cookies. We don't need them. And if we want them, we make our own out of, better ingredients.
And what I started doing with my coffee to make my coffee a treat, like even on the days when I'm not having, I'm kind of on a fast. I mean, this morning I didn't eat any breakfast. I didn't want anything. But I am used to putting like some MCT oil, or I'll put some, grass-fed ghee, or I will have 100% fat pasture-raised cream, and I'll whip it up into like a little whipped cream, and I'll put that on my coffee with a little sprinkle of cinnamon and a little sprinkle of nutmeg.
Yum.
And it's so good. It's like dessert.
Yeah.
And the cream, your taste buds start to get more sensitive to anything sweet. So you'll taste that cream and it'll taste sweet to you, even if you didn't add honey or sugar.
Yeah, because it has lactose, which is, but you're right. You're right.
It's sweet. Milk is sweet in the Ayurvedic world. That would be part of the sweet flavors, because we've got 7 different, tastes.
Yes. And 3 different doshas, and 3 different qualities within the dosha.
I don't know what Ayurveda is. So would you guys explain to them?
Gosh, it's kind of another whole program, but it essentially is kind of a very quick way to say it is like the science of living, and it's knitting together, having a balanced mind, body, and spirit. So keeping your spirit in balance, meaning you don't necessarily need to believe in God or have a religion, but just knowing that you've got a spirit that is separate from your body, right? I mean, our spirit is what is observing the world around us. And I don't want to get too spiritual about this, but that's the spirit part. The mind part, of course, is what is our thoughts and how we're processing the world emotionally and psychologically. So, of course, people who are depressed or anxious, their mind is out of balance. They're suffering from some emotional imbalance. And usually a lot of these things actually do have a metabolic basis to them as well. And then your body obviously needs to feel like it's in balance, to feel healthy and strong and energetic. And those 3 things all work together, like we were talking about before. And Ayurveda is really the study of it's really the science of life, how to live your life in balance and keep these things in balance so that you can thrive.
Ayurveda has been the medical system practiced in India for thousands of years. Yeah, I think that's what I heard, 5,000 years. It comes from the Vedas, which is this very large body of work. And Ayurveda is inside of the Vedas, which is, this deep wisdom of cosmic and, cosmic life. It's from the earth to the sky and then back again and then all around. And there's stories embedded in it. It's really a beautiful system. And the medicine is so layered. It's a friend of mine is an ethnopharmacologist, which means learning about the use of Ayurvedic herbs. But Ayurveda also uses different detoxification techniques, cleansing techniques, different dietary practices, and it's really extraordinary. I know people who kind of know it superficially. I know people who have lived their life by it. I know people who are these advanced doctors in it. They're reversing disease naturally. They're balancing the endocrine system naturally. They're, in my opinion, further along in their medicine than the American system, which is relatively new. Like we can cure an illness or an infection, not an illness, but an infection pretty easily. And that's been a great advancement in our culture. But when it comes to like deep healing and longevity, I feel like Ayurveda has some solutions that are just profoundly healing. You've seen a change. I used to fast, do the master cleanse and juice cleanses. And ever since, the Navaratri, or the restorative cleansing practices have come into my life, it's been a huge shift for me metabolically and even hormonally. It's been a really big difference. And so,
well, even through meditation too, through meditation, I can lower my blood pressure, or I can get a handle on if I'm feeling anxious about something or worried about something.
There's a lot of science
and breath work.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a physical response. So that's using meditation to calm the body, which then will, we talked about the vagus nerve earlier, will calm the vagus nerve, and that will basically calm my mind from having monkey mind or too many worries or staying up. I'm sure many people struggle with waking up at 3 a.m. and then their mind starts going. And if you can use breath work or meditation as a technique to get back to sleep, just to calm your whole nervous system down, it works.
Probably don't know this about me, but I spent the last 34 years in deep, deep yoga practice. And my love for the Vedas and the doctrine and grammar of yoga, I think, came through this practice. And Penelope, my gosh, every day of her life has woken up to me doing breath work or yoga. And I probably have over 20,000 hours in it.
Wow.
I just don't know how to use it per se. And we do teach some of it in our program, but it is so powerful. And so yoga is also part of Ayurveda. And some people would say yoga is a big part of Ayurveda. Some people would say it's not at all a part of Ayurveda, but there's a lot of different ideas about it. But it's a system. And that's what I love about it, is that it's a real system. And so yoga in itself is a system.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just this breathwork thing and these lifestyle practices can be so deeply beneficial. But it's not for everybody. There's a lot of fancy terminology, and I don't know. Not everyone can get into it. So I get it.
And I have to say I'm probably not a purist in my Ayurvedic approach, but I find so much of the system makes sense from just a purely balanced, just looking at the human organism or human being as a system of mind, body, spirit, and keeping those things in balance and working together is a path to better health and well-being. And knitting that together with some of the, interesting, cold and hot therapy also helped me lose a lot of weight.
Oh yeah,
all that biohacking,
like
biohacking.
Saunas or
infrared sauna, cryotherapy, oxygen therapy,
like ozone or
ozone, but also straight up oxygen therapy, having intense levels of oxygen and then depleted oxygen, and you're basically training your lungs and your respiration to sort of it stresses out your cells and your mitochondria, but it also energizes them.
Is that hypobaric?
Hypobaric and hyperbaric.
Hey. Yeah, that's really cutting edge.
No, and a lot of this stuff is passive. Of course, it's expensive. So for a generalized audience, and it's expensive and it's not easy to find.
Yeah.
So I was part of the reason why 7-8 months I was able to lose the 15 pounds that I put on during COVID.
It's a very healthy.
And 8 of those pounds were pure fat because I was doing my body composition.
Oh, you were. Everybody wants to know how to lose fat, Jodi.
Yeah, well, it's all those things we've been talking about.
Cold therapy.
Hot, cold. I mean, whatever tech you can get your hands on, that hot, cold therapy is very,
what about
very...
a bath? Really hot.
That can metabolically, it stresses out your body in a good way, and it can boost your metabolism.
Yeah, that's what I find. But can people just take a hot bath? Do you think that would be, and then jump in something cold shower, hot bath?
Yeah.
Because that's what Europeans maybe do.
My ski teacher insists,
or do a hot shower and then finish with cold minutes of cold.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Do you hear that?
And then your body will you feel like it.
Or just jump in a lake.
Yeah, well, yeah, that
or river
great.
If you have one. Because my ski teacher was like, we don't have cold plunges in Switzerland. We just jump in the lake right now. Like it's snowing.
But they're hardcore. They jump in the snow too.
Wow, that's hardcore. So you don't even need the pain.
And then what happens is your body thinks it's under intense stress, like it might be in such stress it might be dying. So then your body goes to work to warm it up. And of course, that's going to have this metabolic reaction where it's going to burn the brown fat, and the whole conversation about converting white fat to brown fat and then burning brown fat.
Guess that. What do you think about body positivity?
I don't understand why we are normalizing something that is unhealthy and abnormal, right? And I don't want to fat shame anybody, and nobody should fat shame anybody.
Is it fat shaming to just not want to see fat people all over everywhere?
Is
that fat shaming? Because I don't think it's fat.
I don't know what I don't know what probably people have different definitions of fat.
They do. I tell you, they do.
But I feel like we are starting to normalize something that is abnormal and unhealthy.
problematic.
the end of the human race if we go too far with that.
Right. Yeah. So
That's true.
when I was 15,
I mean, going hundreds of years and
100%. When I was 15, I would go on my phone and social media, and there'd be like these morbidly obese models and influencers and even companies promoting like obesity being totally fine, healthy, okay, acceptable. Even at my therapy sessions, they had junk food there, and everyone was eating the junk food, and nobody talked about my weight, and doctors were afraid to say something. They never said anything.
They asked me not to talk about it.
Though I couldn't go up the steps and I had depression and anxiety, they just wanted to give me pills, but they never wanted to address the weight, ever. They never recommended me go on a walk or exercise or eat healthy. None of that. In fact, one doctor told me to eat more bread, which I was doing plenty of at home in private. I was eating plenty of bread. I'll tell you, I had a whole loaf every day. But, you know, I just...
well, that was that old diet, right?
Yeah.
Low fat,
Right.
high carb, big,
No,
huge mistake.
no.
Put a lot of butter on the bread
I
too.
put butter and jam like you. I was addicted to it. That was my thing.
But it was healthy bread, right? It was healthy jam.
Mine was healthy.
It was health. Mine was, it was
Still addictive.
Grape juice,
Sugar. I mean, not what I put it.
soft bread with a healthy brand.
So you're not for the whole like obesity is beautiful conversation. No.
No, because I think it's almost creating like kind of a psychosis around like making something abnormal normal. It's delusional, I think.
You're one
I really do. I think it's delusional.
of the first people to have like the guts to like just say no, that's not cool. Like even doctors have come.
No, I don't think you like normalize it.
Even doctors.
I don't think
Right.
we have to shame anybody for being overweight or being obese. I
Right.
think you help
But
people.
and it's not shaming to say, hey, you're fat. Or it's like, that's not shame. You say, when you tell someone they're gross and ugly, that's shame. But when you're like, hey, you're fat, I don't think saying somebody's fat is a negative
I
thing.
don't think it's helpful.
It
Could be.
On the other hand, I will say if they feel good, some people, a long time ago, I read a book, Fat is a Feminist Issue. And it's a very classic feminist book from the late 70s, I think. And some people feel safer carrying weight. They feel
true.
actually
Yeah,
safer
I've
for
heard
being
that.
fat. So
100%.
That.
Feel good they can buy.
But I don't think. But that's the thing. I don't think anyone truly feels good. Like there are studies to show that being obese is just not good for.
Yeah, it's easier to hide than to deal with the world. It's easier to hide than becoming your
But your
reality.
health,
It's easier to like hide than get the attention that were born to get. You have to learn those skills and how to cope with the person you were born to be. And I think fat is hiding that.
And it also, I mean, from a perspective of just going up, 30,000 feet or 50,000 feet, it's a drain on our system.
Yeah.
If people are obese or morbidly obese and they become diabetic or they have, some severe, and usually they don't just end up with one disease, but multiple diseases.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a drain on the healthcare system, the
Families.
It's just, I don't see how we can responsibly condone it.
No, we can't.
I think you can be empathic and be helpful, but it's got to, from my perspective, it's got to be a little bit more of a tough love approach.
I agree. I totally agree. People were like, "Oh, you're big, you're beautiful. It's totally fine. You do you." I'm like, that's not love.
Well, some people do just naturally sort of carry more weight, or they feel fine with it, or maybe they even feel sexy with it.
20 pounds.
That's probably 20,
Still not
20
morbidly
pounds.
obese.
Yeah.
Right now we've got a major issue.
But I don't think you can say you're big, you're beautiful, and you're eating ultra processed foods day in and day out. You have mood swings. You get cranky when you don't eat. I mean, these are things that are not normal.
Well, now Miss Alabama is 400 pounds.
You were saying, Jodi, that you had to go to Northern California to meet with some friends that you grew up with.
Yeah.
And like when you were growing up, did you have fat kids in your class and your school that you were in your neighborhood?
No.
Were there
No.
fat kids?
There were kids that were a little bit over,
But not
we would call them chubby, right? Right. That was the word. We would call them chubby. They were just a little bit, they were maybe 10 pounds overweight.
Now it's like 1 in 3 has prediabetes or is diabetic. 1 in 3. So now the majority of kids are
And
fat.
these are children that are diabetic. We're not talking about young adults in their
No, they're
in their
prescribed.
30s.
Prescribed 12-year-olds with Ozempic.
I think there was even,
Trials on 6 years old.
yeah.
Hopefully that they don't get to actually give 6-year-olds Ozempic, but
Okay, so you brought this really cool book with you that both Penelope and I are huge fans of. Can I show it?
Yes.
So this is a book that we recommend everyone read. It's written by both Callie and Casey Means, a brother and sister. And the sister is now been appointed or elected the Surgeon General. I don't think she's been sworn in yet, though. I think she has to go through some scrutiny.
Yeah.
She's getting a lot of backlash.
Yeah.
Outside of politics, though, I think the book is really great. I've read it, and
It's an amazing book.
before she came on the radar as Surgeon General, before Callie Means was even on the radar as the right hand of the Secretary of the HHS, Kennedy, I read this book, and it really resonated with me, and it speaks to a lot
Just finished it. I mean, I mainly listened to the audiobook, but I use this as a reference because there's a lot of good reference material.
She's a researcher.
I love it. Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you felt were either affirming or that you learned that were new or that really stood out to you as like, yes, when you read this book?
That the way I think the thing that really it kind of disturbed me because I think we're really stuck in the thick of it is the way, and I have so much praise and respect for medical doctors. However, the way our medical field works, it compartmentalizes every disease or disorder. So I might go in because I've got persistent sinus infections, and I could have a great ENT. In fact, she was an ENT at Stanford. She was a surgical resident at Stanford University in ear, nose, and throat. And I could go into the ENT and they'll prescribe, maybe they'll flush my sinuses and give me an antibiotic or whatever. They'll treat my persistent infection. However, they're not testing me for anything else. They're not looking at the entire organism. I could also have a thyroid problem. I could also have asthma. I could also be pre-diabetic. And unfortunately, the medical field has become so specialized that I think the field, I'm not talking about doctors specifically, because I think there's lots of good doctors who will look at their patients as a human being that has
Functional medicine doctors, naturopaths. But the majority are not like that.
And the traditional medical school training, those doctors don't take a nutrition class. They're not studying about physiology and how exercise can work into, maintaining a healthy body. So we've become so. I might go to an ENT specialist for my chronic sinus infections. I might then go to my hormone doctor for my hormone imbalance. I might then go to my general practitioner for my diabetes. But no one's really looking at the whole Jodi and why does she have all these problems. And some of the problems might be, in the big scheme of things, seemingly small, like the sinus infection. But some of the things are obviously life-threatening, like diabetes. So that's the problem. And she broke away from the medical field, the traditional medical field, to become recertified in functional medicine. And I think she actually is an incredible example of someone who has studied and succeeded in both worlds.
Do you think she's an appropriate appointee for a Surgeon General?
I do personally.
Yeah.
I think this is there's so much history about why our countries, how our medicine tradition has become so specialized like this, and not really recognizing that the underlying issue with a lot of these diseases is a metabolic syndrome.
And one of the best ways to optimize your metabolic health is to get sunshine every day, to eat whole foods, to hydrate well, to sleep well, to move every day. Actually, movement, exercise is one of the most powerful ways you can, really get your metabolism working well, to get your microbiome working well, to get your whole health back on track. And so she does talk about these things.
She does. And she also talks about to exercise, you don't have to go and do a 2-hour hike, if you're just getting up and down, walking around for 5 minutes every half hour to an hour, you can add up all those little 5-minute chunks throughout the day. And at the end of the day, maybe you're not pushing your cardiovascular health that hard, but that amount of movement, just 5 minutes every 30 to 60 minutes, added up over the course of the day, you've gotten enough movement.
It's amazing. So if you find yourself sedentary, which is now the new smoking, they say, you can do that. So you can take Dr. Jodi's advice and just get up. When Penelope tries to get in 20,000 steps a day, I have no idea how many steps I get a day, but I think it's impressive what she does.
Yeah.
It's really impressive. Yeah, but I definitely recommend this book or the Audible. And we're really excited about all the movement that both Casey and Callie are creating in our country. And I'm very hopeful about what we can accomplish in the next 4 years.
Jodi, is there anything you would like our audience to know before we close?
I would echo what Helene just said. I mean, some of the key things that are so simple that cost no money at all, because I realize that many things that I've mentioned are kind of cost prohibitive to a lot of people. You know, buying 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef or pasture-raised, air-chilled chicken, and all this list could go on and on. So those foods do tend to cost more, but sunlight and just getting out under bright white clouds like we have today, just getting natural light in the morning within an hour or two of waking for 10 to 20 minutes, and then getting out under the sky just before sunset, that will do an enormous amount for helping you sleep better at night and just setting your circadian rhythm on track. Eating as healthfully as you can, and really knowing that this house that you've been given is the only house you have in this life. So just like maintaining your house that you live in or the apartment that you live in, washing the floors and making sure if the sink is dripping that you correct the plumbing problem. Take care of your house with good foods and clean water whenever you can. And it's baby steps. You can't do it all at once.
Beautiful. Thank you.
It's so true. And we would love to hear from you. So please do comment down below. We have connected you with Jodi, with Dr. Jodi. In the description, we have her bio and the links to find her and to engage with her and to reach out to her. What would you like to invite people to reach out to you about?
I would love to hear. So, and I've only just started to really put social media content online. And of course, I do provide health and well-being support to the Felicity Mental Health Clinic, where I'm a part-time consultant. But I would love to hear from you. What are some of the issues you're dealing with that you would like to learn more about? Because I did start a program that I kind of casually referred to of the ABCs of living longer, happier, healthier lives. And I would like to know what your ABCs are. What are some of the issues that you're struggling with, or things, lifestyle changes that you'd like a little more advice about? That would be great.
So direct message her on Instagram, comment down below, and also just follow her because she's got a lot of interesting insights that are just accumulating every day. I love Jodi. I love spending time with her. I'm just so delighted that you could be here with us today.
I'm honored.
Don't forget to like this podcast and share it with somebody you think it could be meaningful for, somebody you know it could make a difference for. And if you haven't already, please subscribe.
And watch our podcast or listen to our podcast on Spotify.
We'll see you all the time.
And if you want to join our Women's Accountability Group, don't forget to click the link in the description to join. We're only accepting amazing, awesome, and ready women. So please join if you're one of those. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we will see you all the time.